Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be in the world. We bring you greetings and salutations from this another segment of Conversations in the Nick of Time. I am your host, Nikki Roach, and we want to say thank you to KSTL 690 AM for their continued sponsorship and love. Also, Sparkman Pathway to Career and Covenant Exchange LLC. Wow, we are so excited to be able to bring you another installation of this platform where we talk about leadership excellence, leadership accidents, and leadership equity. So we have all those different things that we talk about, and we do not cut short when it comes to the talent and the guests that we invite to this platform. I'm just beyond honored to have with us today Lady Adrian Bracy. We'll get into this bio that we've had to chop up because it's just way too extensive to even begin to share with you the amazingness that God has placed within her. And again, just honored to have her here. But want to also make sure that you are familiar with our platform, this virtual classroom that we have set up for you. Okay, now to our guests, Lady Adrian Bracy. She's an author, business and personal coach, consultant, and motivational speaker. She's also a retired Chief Executive Officer, CEO over at YWCA Metro St. Louis, where I've had a pleasure of serving under her leadership as a volunteer. And she was there almost 12, well, pretty much 12 years, but the impact and the residue of that leadership still continues to rumble and reside in this region. After spending 18 years in senior financial management with the National Football League, yes, the NFL, with the Miami Dolphins, St. Louis Rams, and the Arizona Cardinals, Bracy transitioned to the nonprofit sector to follow her passion, that is to inspire and make a difference in the lives of women and girls everywhere. After retiring from the YWCA, she accepted a position as executive director of the Stewart Trust, aka the Stewart Family Office, and she continues to serve, and she has launched the Bracy Group, where she can get you together in regards to consulting you and coaching you in the spaces of leadership excellence and accidents, which is what we do here, and that's why I'm most excited. She's received numerous awards throughout her career, including Black and Enterprise 50 Most Powerful Blacks in Sports, Black Enterprise 50 Most Powerful Women in Business, in the St. Louis Business Journal's Most Influential Business Women, which is a coveted experience and recognition in this region. She's gone on to satisfy needs within higher education, receiving a master's in business administration, a degree in accounting. She's attended Morgan State University in Baltimore, Nova Southeastern University. I could, again, go on and on. She's got John Maxwell certification. She's part of Links. I cannot leave out AKAs. All of that. She is residing and headquartered. Her company is in St. Louis, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, but her reach extends across the globe. Lady Bracy, how are you?
Oh my gosh, Lady Nikki, I am humbled and honored to be here. I am doing well. To God be the glory, you know? Yes, and I'm just so excited to be and spend some time with you.
I know it's been a long time coming. I know we've crossed each other's paths in so many different places, whether it was you hosting the YWCA Women in Leadership Table for Four, or all the way to the Leaders Luncheon. I mean, you are the epitome when I think of women in leadership who have rocked it out and given us that next, I'm not that far behind you, but the emerging leaders of color, a sense of hope, and your level of grace in which you show up is just been exemplary.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I feel the same about you. Although you are slight younger, you are still a mentor for those that are following you as well. So it's, iron sharpen iron.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now, let's just hop right in to get to
Yes.
know you. And I know one thing that is always a conversation behind the curtain when you're on the stage is how in the world did she manage to even get into a male-dominated industry? Just get in, first of all, and then second, be successful.
Yes, yes. Well, I always, whatever I say or do, I always give God the glory, because for me, that's the foundation of my success. And so, I tell you, and I tell people this, it's important, like you mentioned earlier, volunteering, because I got into the NFL through someone who saw me as a volunteer for the National Association of Black Accountants, called NABA. And so I was volunteering for NABA, and someone within the organization had a call from the Miami Dolphins looking for a controller. And I didn't know him that well, but he saw my passion for giving back and for tutoring college students going through accounting. And I always tell people it's not always who you know, but who knows you. So I didn't know him that well, but he watched me as I volunteered my time and my talents and my treasures for NABA, and recommended me to the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little dicey there, because a friend within NABA also interviewed for that position. But this particular guy said, hey, before you hire him, I really think you should interview Adrian, at the time, Adrian Barr. And so that's how I got really connected or hired within the NFL, because it was someone who recommended me because they saw something that impressed them, which was my volunteerism, just volunteering and giving it all. So that's how I started in the NFL. Yeah.
That so simple, but so true. Because I can even speak to the importance of volunteering. And a lot of times we are in places where we find ourselves so stretched, especially as you move up the ladder. But I'm glad that you mentioned this, because it's imperative if you're wanting to just have influence within your industry, regardless of it.
Right. That's it.
But it's our duty, in a sense, to give back and pay it forward for the next person. But as you just said, it wasn't even someone that you knew greatly, but the fact that you were, as I love to say, in position for someone to see and to feel.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. You said, be in position, because you never know when the opportunity is going to knock. And it's so important for leaders to make sure that we're prepared, which is why when I took the job with the Miami Dolphins, I had my CPA. But Nikki, I really felt that I wanted to go into corporate America, primarily IBM. And so while I was with the Dolphins, I thought, okay, let me prepare myself, like you said, prepare myself. So when and if that opportunity knocks, I'll be prepared with an MBA, which is why I decided to get my MBA, because I wanted to be ready. I never wanted to give anyone the reason to turn me down or to say we can't because you're not prepared. And so that is so true. It's being prepared, being at, I guess the right place at the right time, but that doesn't happen. That's being intentional. I was intentional about helping others, and so, yeah.
And something else you bring up as well, when you said you knew you wanted to go into corporate, you knew exactly where, which was IBM, which I'm tickled. I remember how that was like an it place, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That made it, so to speak, back then. However, you were flexible enough, and you use it. We're going to get to the book in a moment, but you use a word that is so near and dear to my heart, which is pivot. You were flexible enough to pivot from what you had written on the wall as where I'm going.
Yep.
Explain to us the power of having an open mind. You can be positioned, but if you are so stern in regards to what should and shouldn't be, and how it's supposed to happen, we can oftentimes cause our own barriers.
So true. We can really miss out on what God has for us if we are not flexible. And throughout my life, as I look back, Nikki, throughout my life, I've had to be flexible. I wanted to be an attorney. So when I went to college, I told my counselor, I want to be a lawyer. And she says, well, Adrian, I'm looking at your transcripts, your SAT and your high school transcripts. I really think you should take an accounting course. And I said, well, I don't even know what is accounting. She said, well, it's like bookkeeping. Have you heard of bookkeeping? I said, of course, I took bookkeeping in high school. All right, I'll try it. And so I tried an accounting course in my freshman year in college. And now I'm a CPA because of that. Learning to pivot, learning to be flexible, learning to make adjustments is so critical in our growth as a leader. And not even leader, let's say you don't really want to be in leadership, but just as a person, period, personally, career, spiritually, just being flexible, being able to adjust. So that, you're right. So after my MBA, I received my MBA. It was the executive program at Nova. And thinking that I'm going to IBM, I'm ready now, I'm ready. I have my MBA.
Yes.
And then as it happened, God had a different plan. And just as I got my MBA, I reported to the treasurer for the stadium and the treasurer for the Miami Dolphins. So I was the controller for both the stadium and the team. Wow. And so the treasurer for the stadium resigned like 2 or 3 months before I got my MBA. So when I got my MBA and he resigned, it was so easy for them just to promote me into that role, but I was prepared. And like you said, I was I pivot, I made adjustments, and we'll talk a little later, but as I go into my halftime moments, that's when I really reflect and decide, okay, you know what worked, what didn't work, what adjustments, what do I need to do to pivot? What do I need to pivot, or do I need to stay the course? And so I've done that throughout my whole life as I started even in college. So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned, should I pivot? Should I stay the course? What is it that causes you to even tap into either or of those? Or explain to us, Lady Bracy's day in the life of, because you've made what some would say some hard pivots, like NFL to a nonprofit serving women, to now, consultants. That is not the path that, we normally see when we talk about making progression. Mm-hmm. in the normal sense, according to society, but it was the right journey.
Right. Right.
So what is that like, having to make those decisions?
It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh God, it's just easy. You just make a decision. No, it takes trust and it takes faith in God, but also in yourself. So many times women, we hesitate. We are always doubting ourself, our thoughts, our intuition. We don't know. It's like, I don't know what I should do. And then we go and we ask 5 or 6 different people. And now you're really confused because now you're really, depending on others to make that critical decision for you. And I was there. I'm not going to say, I've never done that. Of course I have. But as I've gotten older, gosh, now I'm in my 60s. It's like crazy. Like, where did that come? Where did that happen?
No way.
So, now I feel confident in my decisions, and I don't need to go and ask 5 or 6 friends. If there's something that's really critical, I may have 1 or 2 individuals that I will lean on, my husband being one of them. But I tell you what drives me to that place of even thinking about, should I make a decision? Should I pivot? Should I? Is usually when there's some uncomfortable situation. Yeah. So whenever I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable, I start to think, okay, am I uncomfortable because I need to pivot, or am I or am I uncomfortable because I just need to make a tweak or maybe change my attitude? Because sometimes it's our attitude that we may not need to pivot. We may not need to change. We need to change our attitude, our thinking. And so I've had to deal with all of those questions within myself. And so what I've learned is that when I'm uncomfortable in a situation, that's when it's time for me to at least evaluate why. So that's what I do. And that's where I go into what I call my halftime. And that's where I pray, I really meditate, I journal. I do all those things that will help me to come to this decision. Prayer is the number one. And then when I feel that peace, Lady Nikki, when I feel that peace that surpasses all understanding is when I feel, okay, that's the answer. It is now time for me to move on. And it's always scary, not always, but it's scary. I'm just not going to say it's all easy. Because I have peace doesn't always mean that it's not scary. It's just that I have peace within that.
And this peace, the feeling of being uncomfortable, evaluating the why, all that takes us leaning into this honest space.
Yeah.
That can be very annoying, very, back to your word, uncomfortable, very frustrating, very isolating,
scary,
but you're right, like that clarity comes in those spaces, but we're so afraid to like still ourselves.
Oh my gosh. We are. And I think part of it is because of the uncertainty for a lot of us.
Yeah.
You know, we're uncertain. And so how do we feel comfortable and, like you said, clarity through this? And it's a process. It really is a process. It's not, I mean, there's some people I believe probably have the gift of clarity, you know, understanding all of that, and good for them. For me, it not so much. And so, so getting over that fear, having that faith enough to overcome the fear. So that's what I've had to do. I've had to have enough faith that retiring from the YWCA, I had to have that faith that overshadowed that fear that God will provide. I could have stayed at the Y for another 10 years, you know, but then I would have missed out, as you said earlier, I would have missed out on what God has put me into now. So, you know, listen, it's not easy.
Oh, okay. So I have goosebumps because I'm writing down these keywords because I'm like, okay, but let me go back. One thing you mentioned too was like being mindful that we not share everything with everybody. We do seek out this moment of like we want to be validated. But as you said, if God gave you the vision and gave you the unction and the direction, no one else is going to know. He didn't give it to them, so they can't necessarily really validate.
No, and that's where, and you know, that's a big difference between men and women. And I see that even in my husband. He doesn't need validation. If my husband says, I'm going to do this, he doesn't have to talk to anyone. He may ask me for my opinion sometimes, not all the time, but it's that, you know, and now I'm stepping out of that spiritual part. Now just that natural man and women, just the natural piece of it, not the spiritual piece. But a lot of times that's just a big thing for women. And I think for a lot of us, we grew up with that culture of needing to be validated, and men, and I don't know, maybe it's a gene. You know, there's this book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From whatever. So that's true. There's some things that it's like, oh my gosh, that's like so different from how I feel. I mean, even in just in corporate, men they would apply for a job that they are not qualified.
One thing they can do
One thing out of five things, they apply for it and they believe that, but women, we want to apply for it.
And we can do everything but one.
One, that's right. And because we didn't do all five, I can't apply for it. Men, like you said, they can do one out of the five and they apply for it. And so, there's just so many things as leaders that we have to overcome.
Yeah, I remember Harvard did a research, and it was a class activity. You can Google it, those who are listening, where they did that exact study in regards to women not applying versus men applying, but also seeing how women will ask permission while men will just ask for what it is that they're seeking to get. But we will go through these different processes if we don't already talk ourselves out of.
And usually we do.
Guilty as charged.
Me too. I'm telling you, my gosh. Yeah.
Guilty.
Yes.
How is it, going back to that second part of that initial question of, you arrived in this male-dominated industry, but then you sustained yourself.
Yes.
Quite successful, which then led to even more success in spaces that you were able to choose that you showed up, which is a blessing. Yeah. But in that sustaining, that successful space that you resided in, what would you say are some of the attributes or characteristics that you leaned into to make sure that you showed up in the places you were to show up?
That's a great question. So for 18 years in the NFL, some of the qualities that I had, some of them I had to develop or not discover because they were already there. I just needed to develop them. They were already there. But one is confidence. So that is something that I didn't have my entire life. You may look at me now and say, oh my gosh, she's such a confident woman.
That's what I'm saying. Work on that.
Oh gosh, Lady Nikki, I had to work on that really hard because I grew up in such a humble beginning. And in Miami, an area called Liberty City with drugs and prostitution where my family members got caught up. And so a lot of times I really felt like I didn't deserve, like I was unworthy. I wasn't enough because of the way I grew up and because just my environment. So that, no one really knew. It's just amazing how sometimes God could hide things from others that I was dealing with. And I actually went and I spoke to a therapist. And so that helped me as well. And then I just had to lean in to the words of God that I'm beautiful. I'm enough. I am a royal priesthood. Oh my gosh, I'm a chosen one. When I started calling all the things that I am, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That helped me. So my spiritual foundation kicked in. And then just talking to mentors telling me, Adrian, being prepared, like we talked about earlier, builds that confidence. And so that's how I built my confidence to stay within the NFL for 18 years is knowing my job. When you know that you know what you're doing, it only builds confidence. Lack of confidence usually comes when you don't know what the heck you're doing. I mean, and so that was one thing is making sure that I was prepared, which built my confidence. And when I say being prepared, if I didn't know something, I asked. And what I learned in especially early in the NFL, men's ego, they actually like to help. They like to help women. So when I would go to a guy and say, hey, you know what? I just don't understand this. Can you help me? But oh my gosh, that was just, and I used that. I used it. I used it to my advantage. Absolutely.
That's a tool.
That is a tool. And I used my resources. I did make sure that I wasn't emotional. I didn't show a lot of emotion.
Okay, whoa. Which is what women are usually dinged for, right? But yet at the same time, in the workplace now, you see so many articles about empathy and compassion. And
Isn't that something? Now,
what do you think about that?
Yeah, 30 years ago, whatever. Oh gosh, don't show your emotions. Don't, no. So I didn't. So I learned to
use that because they were somewhere.
And men, they really then, and maybe now, but in some degree, don't really want to have that conflict.
Okay.
See, women, we deal with the conflict, but I learned earlier on that how did I handle the conflict? So learning how to handle conflict was another key that really helped me through 18 years of this. And being able to listen.
That's a good
it was, yes, that was really good. And which go hand in hand with not letting them see you sweat.
Okay. So
that not showing my emotions, all of that stuff, maybe it wasn't good then, but it got me through, that. The other thing was I believed that respect, so some people say just respect me, but I believe that it's earned though. I can't go around treating people any kind of way and then think that I automatically deserve respect. So I respected people. And in return, I got respect back. And so that was something, but I tell you this really helped me out a lot. My husband would say when I got married, he would tell me, don't bill the clock, just tell me the time. So I learned that.
Oh, wait a minute. Repeat that.
Don't build the clock, just tell me the time. So in other words, don't give me this long story because I don't have time to hear it. I don't even want to hear it. And by the time I'm into my 15 minutes, I've lost them. So I've learned that when I go into a boardroom and, with these men, I had to get direct. I had to get to the point. I couldn't build the clock. They just wanted the time. So I learned to be brief. Brevity sometimes is better than this long, drawn out speech of explanations. And so that helped me a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one that was a good lesson. And so that helped me even in
because what's so interesting as leaders, I know for me personally, I didn't give enough detail. I didn't give enough support. I needed to set context in regards to some of my ask and establish my why. But this is resonating so much with me right now. Don't build the clock, just tell me the time. I'm not going to forget that because I build the clock.
But you lose people. You lose them. By the time you get to the point, their mind is going on their next meeting, what they got to do tomorrow, all of this. Oh, but wow. You just go in with the deep bullets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, versus 5 paragraphs of. And that helped me as well in the YWCA. Going to meet donors, I would go in and I learned, okay, I don't need to spend 30 minutes talking about what the YWCA does. I didn't need to do that and then come to the ask. I could just get 3 to 5 high-level bullet points. We do boom, boom, boom. And now, we were hoping that and then go into the ask versus, there's so many things that I learned that from the NFL that was transferable over to the YWCA. And you would think like, how can NFL help you? But it's those qualities that you called out. It's not necessarily the job itself. It's the qualities, and empathy was one of the things that really helped me throughout my entire career because it came back to me. So when I made mistakes, the person saw me helping that other person, they gave me grace. So I just believe that it just, that you sow what you reap.
Yeah.
And so
I love how you highlighted the fact that the skill sets were transferable. Because when I think of NFL, I am fascinated by the strategy, the discipline, the collaborative. You have to be a team player. Like there is no other way around. Like we already know that. And I think just being able to break past some of the things that like in the corporate space, like if we understood the dynamics of the locker room and practice, if we understood that and put that into action in regards to no matter what your industry is.
Yeah.
We're preparing to win, not oppose each other. So I totally, it's clear. It's clear.
That is so good. I'm glad you even said that. That just brought something else up. Another quality is being collaborative. Yeah. Like you just said, we need each other. We're interdependent. We're not dependent. I can't succeed by myself. And just as a team can't succeed alone, they have to have their teammates, a quarterback, and I would say like Kurt Warner, although during the greatest show on turf in St. Louis during the Rams days that's 1999 season, Kurt Warner could not have been the MVP of the Super Bowl without Isaac Bruce and without Torrey Holt and without Marshall Faulk, without Big O. It had to have been the team. And then the offense, they couldn't have won the Super Bowl without the defense. So it had to be collaborative. Sometimes leaders think that I can do it on my own, but no, we're not meant to do it on our own. We're meant to help each other.
Love that. What would you say was one of your learning points, something that was an accident that helped propel you forward, that you learned from?
Oh, let's see. I've had so many. Of course, that whole being brief, that was a pivoting moment of my career. I'm going to say something that's really probably simple, and I just talked about it a few seconds ago, but it's asking.
Okay.
When I took the job with the Arizona Cardinals, I was on the plane leaving St. Louis to Phoenix, and there was a delay. I went to the bookstore. There was a book, and it said, "Women Don't Ask." So I bought it, read it on that leg from Dallas to Phoenix, got off the plane, and I immediately, this is funny though, my cell phone died, the battery died, and I had to go and find a pay phone. I mean, we don't even look at pay phones anymore. I think it was a phone booth actually. Okay. And so I actually went in and I called my new boss and I said, "Thank you so much for this opportunity. However, I've done some research and I've learned that the cost of living is higher in Phoenix than St. Louis. So I would like to renegotiate my salary."
This is after you hired?
After I was hired. And it's only because this book that said "Women Don't Ask" that I would have accepted the offer, which I did. I had already accepted the offer. I'm getting ready to start my job in a few days. But because of that book that said "Women Don't Ask," Women Don't Ask, I end up negotiating my salary, and I think I got, I don't know, maybe 10% more or whatever it was, like $25,000 more on my initial salary acceptance. And so that's one thing that I've had to learn, because I have a problem with asking. I just don't ask. I'm a giver. I love to give, but I hate to ask, which was really difficult. And that book, so that's a transferable skill from the NFL over to the YW, because now I have to ask. I have to go to donors and sponsors, and I had to ask, would you be, interested, or we really need your help for the sexual assault program, or the housing for homeless women program, or the domestic violence program, or our teens program. I had to learn to ask, and that was hard, but that is one thing that I have learned. And now it's so much easier for me to ask. We just don't like to ask for help. A lot of times people get fired from jobs simply because their ego, their pride, it's just too much to ask for help. I don't understand this. Could you please show me how to do this?
Right. And it's so interesting in my career trajectory, I have learned that I don't have to, and it has taken a weight off of me, but also allow me to better show up, to release this idea that I'm here to have all the answers. I said, the reason we have all these meetings is because nobody has an answer.
Right.
Collectively, going back to the collaboration, we come to the boardroom, put up the facts, and we figure out what's the best strategy that's in alignment with our vision, purpose, and need.
Absolutely.
But
that is true.
I read an article, Elon Musk, and it was one other individual, and they talked about the two things that make stellar leaders stand out. And it wasn't about knowing what to do and how to do things. But the first one was remain curious. And the other was ask question after question after question. Great leaders ask questions because it pushes others to explore things that we would have actually totally negated. We wouldn't have even thought of, because now it takes you into this ideation process.
Yes.
And then that's when you're like, let's take the risk. But if we don't explore it, we don't know. So I was like, wow. So as a leader, your goal really push people to and ask them questions, not in an interrogation manner, but in a manner of what else. So there's an organization called Filament. Filament does leadership development here. They're headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, but they do work all over. Okay. And they have this activity that they do. I've sat through some of their sessions, and they ask you to address a situation asking these three questions. I wish, I wonder, I worry. And you take off all of your possible barriers or fears, just dump it all on the paper. And then you see what within the group, what's the common themes? What are the things that are from, as far as East as is from West? And you just go through this process. And it reminds me like, wow, again, no one has the answer. But it's about being able to be strategic,
right.
and collaborative. And
collaborative. And I love what you said, the weight of the world when you can say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. I don't have to. As a leader, we think we have to know. Not even as a leader.
Especially as a Black female.
Like, we always have to give an answer. And I remember early in my career, I felt that way. And sometimes I would give an answer just because I didn't want not to have an answer. And it was the wrong answer. Yep. And I remember my boss said, Adrian, listen, you do not always have to know the answer. If you don't know, just tell me, Eddie, I don't know, but I'll get back with you. It's okay to say that. It's okay not to have all the answers right away. That's my
boss told me the same.
Yeah.
Now to halftime. Just a little blurb about halftime, because our time is coming to an end just for the moment. But halftime, learn to pivot as a leader and identify your next step. Congratulations on the launch of the book. It is doing well.
Thank
so
you.
Many amazing nuggets within this text. Everyone run out and get it. It's on Amazon. You can do ebook. You can do hardback book. You can invite her to come and actually walk through the text with you. Tell us just a little bit about what moved you to this moment of writing.
Yes. Oh, and also they can also go to adrianbracy.com.
Yes, got that.
Yeah. So what led me to this really was when I decided to retire from the YWCA in 2018. And I'm thinking, okay, in 2020, I want to do something, but what? Because I wanted to retire in 2020 when I turned 60. It's like, okay, when I turn 60, this is it. So I was thinking, okay, but I never knew exactly what it was. But I thought, you know what? I do love mentoring women and helping women. So how about if I just become a coach? So I went through the John Maxwell Coaching Institute and became certified John Maxwell coach. And so now it's about 2019. And now I'm thinking, okay, so I'll just start preparing for next year. Well, next year came, which was February 2020, when I turned 60, and the pandemic hit 3 weeks later. And it's like, oh my gosh. So my board asked, my board chair said, Adrian, can you stay on for a while? I said, sure. So during that time, I went into my halftime, which again, when people think of halftime in sports, it's always entertainment. And I think Beyonce just came out with the title, a documentary on her halftime. but that was actually during the game. And so for me, my halftime is when I just stop and I be still. And I go into my meditation mode of whatever the issue is, whatever I'm feeling uncomfortable about, I take it to halftime. And that's where I really pray and whatever it is that I, meditate, journal, research. And then I get the clarity that I need when I'm in halftime. And I've had a lot of halftime experiences. Some people said, oh, is that halftime is like your second half of your life, your career, which there is a book like that. But I said, no. I started halftime like as a little girl. I knew at the time I didn't call it halftime, but I knew, now, of course, I know that was during halftime when I had to pivot and I had to make changes in my life. And I gave one, which was college. I really wanted to be a lawyer, but I went to halftime. And during that, after my counselor told me this, I prayed and I thought about it. And so the bottom line is I wrote halftime to help others. That was the core of a book. I wanted to write a book on something that's going to help others, either prevent them from experiencing maybe what I experienced, or maybe just helping them to understand you're not alone. These are some of the lessons that I've learned, and either you've experienced it, or if you haven't, you may experience it, and now you'll have a reference to go back. And so that's really where halftime came. Halftime, of course, was because of my 18 years in the NFL, and I wanted to do something that I could kind of keep me still connected to the NFL.
Yeah, I love the reinterpretation, that reimagination around the word, because I do get, because I'm into football a little bit, understand the concept, because when I'm thinking of halftime, like, yes, we're being, as spectators, entertained, but what's happening? Why are we taking this halftime really? It's so that the players can go, one, catch their breath.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Strategy, look at what has happened.
That's right.
Where we need to tighten up and tweak and possibly pivot, and meaning change or reposition.
Yeah.
Then how are we going to execute when we go back out here?
That's right. That's it.
So absolutely.
That's it. The coaches are there trying to see what worked and what didn't work. They're evaluating the plays from the first half. And, and I think I put in here that sometimes, even if you're winning at halftime, doesn't mean you become complacent.
Yes.
Because that other team, they're doing something that's different, that's going to come out in the second half. So you still have to be on your P's and Q's, and you still have to be ready to pivot. So if the defense did XYZ play in the first half and they come out in the second half and now they're going to do ABC play, well, you need to pivot on your offense, because now, if you continue to do what you were doing in the first half, you're going to lose the game. So, yeah,
that is wonderful. What's next?
Well, what's next? I feel that, so God has taken me to another journey that I didn't plan on. When I retired, I was going to do the executive leadership coaching in the book, but then God called me to be an executive director for the Stewart Family Office, which is something that's a whole nother career. So now this is, I guess, my fourth career. I don't know, but nevertheless, it's helping to continue to build the kingdom of God, and that's through philanthropy and other things. So that's what's now. What I feel and what I pray is next is that I really will go into executive leadership coaching for women. That is my passion, which I'm doing now. I mean, I have 3 coaching clients, which is probably all, it's a lot right now, but that's my passion. So I think that's what's next. Maybe another book, who knows? We'll see.
Oh yeah, I know that's coming. I know that's coming. Totally know that's coming. Want to make sure everybody knows you can find out more about Lady Adrian Bracy at Adrian, Adrian, B as in boy, RACY.com. And we'll, of course, post this information as well. You can go and visit and make sure you find out more about who she is. And if you are not interested in her services, trust me, you're interested in her story. You will be motivated, encouraged to move forward. Thank you so much for this time. I want to just get one last thing from you, and that is one word that comes to mind if you wanted to encourage that group that you're wanting to make sure you're connected to in regards to your leadership coaching and development. Like, what's the one word you want us to hang on to?
God, there's so many wonderful words that I love.
If you can't do one, give me your top three.
Top three. Okay. Intentionality. Be intentional.
Okay.
Be resilient. We're all going to fall, but it's important to get back up. And thirdly, faith.
Okay.
Have faith.
There you have it. She's given us some stuff to cling on to in the nick of time. Just so no matter what you're going through, you've got something to hold on to keep going, understanding that you just may be in a halftime, but halftime only has a limited amount of time before you come out and ready, being intentional, resilient, and full of faith. Lady Adrian Bracy, thank you so much for this stolen moment. I am beyond honored, and we are here to celebrate you, but also to support you. So reach out at any time if we can be of service to you.
Thank you, Lady Nikki. This has been such a joy and honor and a pleasure, and ditto. I'm also here to serve you and to help you in any way possible, and to our audience as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Want to thank everyone for giving us your ear and your heart. We've given you some things that can now be placed in your hand, tools to be successful in the way that you define success. You already have everything you need. Just tap into it, explore it, and unpack it. Want to thank Sparkman Pathway to Careers, Sparkman Publication, KSTL 690, and Covenant Exchange for their continued support. Make sure you visit us at nikkiroach.com to learn more about the show, but also how to be a guest. Until next time, go be great, be present.